All right.
Are we good? Are we live?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are live.
Perfect.
Yay. Hello. Hi, Matt.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just looking like suspiciously, but each time when we go live, I'm just like, let me just
checking
check.
to make sure.
Yes, just to make
Yeah.
sure that everything is fine. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. How is that? It's not possible to not be. Okay, I'm going to post the link for Zoom in the chat. Oh no, it's not the link for Zoom, of course. Okay, I'm going to post it later. All right. All right. Well, good evening. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you here in our Zoom room, and also we are live in YouTube. And we decided to make this live chat with Matt after we made the first one. I think it was pre-recorded, right?
Yeah.
Then we tried we tried something in Instagram, because in Instagram we found each other. I found you. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I followed you for quite a while, watching your interviews with people. So.
And now we decided just to make another one. And warm welcome, Matt. Nice to have you here. Again, warm welcome. Do you hear me?
Sorry, yeah, my internet just froze, but yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it is. So. Okay, no
That's
problem.
Better. Okay, I think we're good to go.
Yay. Well, warm welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for joining.
We can start. Yeah, I can start by asking you maybe what is non-duality for you, or
what is non-duality? I mean, it's kind of just it's not really a thing. I suppose it's not anything that you can objectify, but it's kind of pointing to reality as it is before the mind comes in and kind of imposes concepts onto it. And it's sort of reality, but without that kind of subject-object separation. So it's just revealing that reality is fundamentally whole and fulfilled as it is. But I guess the conventional way of seeing the world is kind of dualistic. So we have this kind of sense of being a subject in relationship with the world. So it's kind of me and my reality on the inside, and then the world and everything else, and objects and people and places on the outside. And there's this kind of I'm in relationship with the world. That's the sort of sense that most people have. But non-duality is pointing to the fact that that sense of being someone in the body is actually, it's not actually happening. It's not real. It's just it's kind of like a contracted energy. It's kind of like a tension in the body. And then it's sort of reinforced by a kind of story in the mind. And when that kind of collapses, it's just revealed that there's just simply what is happening, which is just all there is. It's just everything. So yeah, that's kind of what it is to me.
Yeah, it's so utterly simple. Like each time it feels like, but each time it feels like new. So it's what's happening, and it's just like this sitting here.
It's very simple. Yeah, it's sort of slightly, it's too simple really for the mind to grasp.
These words are just going out through this mouth, and there are noises or not.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's very simple. But the simplicity is kind of covered over when there's a person here. I think there's sort of a feeling of like not being satisfied with what's happening. So that's why people are always constantly looking for something else to kind of add to what's happening, to find fulfillment. But there's obviously nothing outside of this that you can find. There's nothing you can actually add to this to make it more whole. But yeah, as you said, it's completely simple. It's very simple and very ordinary as well. So it's just simply having a cup of tea or going for a walk, or it's very simple.
It doesn't need any meaning as well, which is also something that struck me like very deep. It doesn't require any meaning.
No, it doesn't require anything.
Yeah.
It's already completely fulfilled as it is. Some people say it is its own meaning, so to speak, but it's not. You can't really, there's no meaning. Any meaning you try and impose on it is just another story. But obviously the mind wants to make sense out of what's happening. That's why we have all of these religions and philosophies and all of this stuff to try and make sense out of what's going on. But the answer is no one really knows what this is. Bit of a mystery. It's a mystery, so to speak, but yeah.
Yeah. And this meeting also, and this chat, this live here on YouTube, it's also like without any special meaning, without any meaning at all.
No. But even I remember when I was listening to this message, I used to listen to Jim Newman, and I used to think it was really important. And there was something that he was saying that I wasn't quite getting. I just thought, oh, if I listen to one more talk, maybe this time I'll understand it. Because even this message, people want to kind of take this message and apply it to their lives. You know, they want to take non-duality, the concept, and kind of say, okay, there's no me. And then they try and apply that to their lives, and they're like, okay, you know, I'm not anyone. I'm nothing. Everything is nothing. Appearing as everything. Whatever. But that just becomes a new belief system. So some people, that's what I was doing for a long time. I kind of took on non-duality as like a new religion, as a new philosophy. But obviously, it's not like that.
Going to post the link for Zoom because someone is asking the Zoom link in the chat. Just a second. So no, I'm obviously not quite technical. Well, all right. I'm going to post this link, and everyone who's watching us on YouTube, you can join us. Yeah. All right. Nice. Okay. We were chatting a little bit before we go live, and we were chatting about. Yeah, you asked me if I listening to some what kind of music I prefer, or and yeah, it's so obvious that adding like it's nothing wrong, of course, when you're listening to music. Of course, nothing's wrong with that. It's just occupies this here, like constant chatter here. Can you share something?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to distract themselves to some extent from the chatter in their head. They're always trying to distract themselves from it. So they'll watch TV or listen to music. So I was saying to you earlier, like whenever I used to go for a walk, I'd always have to make sure I had my headphones with some music on. But now it's kind of, I'm less drawn to distractions. I wouldn't say I've lost interest in them, but I'm just less drawn towards those kind of external distractions and just kind of enjoy the silence a bit more. As you said, there's nothing wrong with enjoying music.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was listening to mantras.
Listening to mantras, yeah, very spiritual.
Very, very. They're just, I have a feeling that they are lifting my energy, which is of course
But that's the
sweet
thing,
in a
there's
way.
this, yeah, there's an idea
Yeah.
that some music is more spiritual than other music. So if you're listening to rock music or rap music, that's sort of less spiritual than listening to, I don't know, some sort of like classical music or something. But it's all kind of made of the same substance. So yeah.
Hello, where is the Zoom link? I put the Zoom link, Robbie. Robbie, is this or I don't know. If someone wants to share something or wants to ask Matt something, feel free to unmute yourself and ask or share, or I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to comment, Matt, on what you said. That sure, when the mind gets this message first, there is no other chance but making a concept out of it. What else? What else? So then it plays out as it plays out, and then it's kind of, what would you say, shifting energetically in a way. And
yeah,
it's not you, it's it just felt, or even not felt, but you know, it's just happening.
Yeah, it will play out as it plays out. But I think this message is sort of beyond concepts. It's not about adding a new belief system. It's very, as you said, it's energetic. So it's that kind of dissolution of that sort of tension in the body that makes you feel like you're sort of inside the body, and it kind of just dissolves into this kind of boundlessness. So it's a very energetic thing, I'd say. It's not about adding a new concept or understanding anything. If anything, it's about the opposite of that. It's about kind of unlearning or unknowing, you know.
Yeah, and how did it? How was it in your story? How did it play out?
Well, I started off. I mean, I've had issues in the past with addiction and being quite having a lot of anxiety and constantly kind of anticipating, you know, the next moment and projecting myself into the future. There was a lot of that going on. And I was constantly trying to look for something to kind of solve this problem of me, basically. And I think for me, I started off sort of with mindfulness, meditation, reading Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now, kind of doing all these practices like spiritual self-inquiry, for example. And this led to a lot of quite profound insights, you know, sort of seeing like, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm this kind of ever-present background of experience. So there was that kind of phase. But there was still kind of an energetic center in the body, which kind of had taken on this new identity as kind of, you know, now I'm awareness, I'm consciousness, you know. So there was still very much a sense of being me, but now I'd kind of like transcended it a little bit. And then I think just listening to Jim Newman and Tony Parsons, and just something kind of resonated there. And there was just this kind of whole sense of I am kind of just collapsed. And it's very hard to describe what's that, you know, how that plays out, but it just sort of collapsed really.
Okay,
and then after that, the story just kind of
really
played out.
You can't really describe this, right? If the way the energy shifted, or you know, the contraction expanded or whatsoever by, I don't know, crying or laughing or depression, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
At first, there was a sense of there was a feeling of relief, I guess you could say. There was a kind of a relaxation, because a lot of that tension in the body, I was kind of carrying a lot of, when you're carrying this story and this identity, it's quite a burden. It really kind of, it affects every part of your body, you know, your sort of your chest, your every part of your body is kind of infused with this sense of me and this identity. So when that kind of falls away, it's quite relaxing. There's sort of a relaxation. But after that, life just kind of plays out as it plays out. So there can still be anxiety here. There can still be anger sometimes comes up. There can still be sadness, but it just doesn't really stick anymore, because there's no one kind of like grasping onto it and saying this is my anger or this is my anxiety. It's just what happens, and it kind of just plays out as it plays out. So this isn't, a lot of people, I think, listen to this or do spirituality because they want to find some kind of permanent peace or some permanent state of peace and happiness. And but that's not really, there are no kind of permanent states really. Anxiety can still come. But as I was saying earlier, I guess the difference is now, I think everything is a lot more simple. Because when it's seen that there's just what's happening, it's very simple. Whereas when you're a person with a story, you're kind of, this appearance is sort of in a context, it's kind of in a timeline, and you've got to, get it right now in order for the future to be okay. And you're always kind of bringing the past into this situation, and so it all becomes very complicated. But without that kind of story, there's just what's happening, and it's very simple.
Yeah, thank you very much. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Rosa. Thank you.
What about the desire or the impulse to share or to express because in Instagram you post beautiful pictures, and you've mentioned when we chat first time that this beautiful nature there, you are there at the moment, right? You've seen this, you've seen this so many times before, and it never hits you the way it hits you now.
No, everything is sort of always fresh and new because everything's very alive. So I think when you're sort of in a subject-object relationship, everything feels very kind of solid and real and static and kind of motionless. But when you sort of when this is sort of seen for what it is, it's very alive, because it is energy, really. What this is kind of solid, but nothing is really solid. It's all just energy kind of playing around and dancing, and so everything is kind of very new. Yeah, because if it's without a context, then I'm not sort of going on the same walk and thinking, oh, I did this walk yesterday and the day before, and it's a little bit boring. Everything's very fresh and alive and new. So that's
So the same question would be like, but don't you bored like talking about nothing all the time? It's so new in a way.
Yeah, but I don't talk about it much. I don't talk about it with my friends and family. There's not many people I sort of talk to, because in real life, if someone talks to me and they have a problem at work, I wouldn't just say, oh, there's
no you.
Real. Yeah, it's just an appearance. It's just, there's nobody there. Why are you worried? No, I still have human interactions with people. But I think there's more of an openness to this kind of message. It seems to be, when I talk to people, there seems to be more of a receptiveness to what's being shared, which is nice. But yeah, it's very unusual to find people in your day-to-day life who are interested in non-duality.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But no, it's always new. I love talking about it because it kind of it just sort of resonates. There's something about it that kind of resonates, and just, you know, it's hard to describe. I remember, like, because I used to listen to Jim Newman all the time, and I never got bored of it though. And he was saying the same stuff every meeting. He just say the same stuff every time. And I think this is the same with a lot of the non-duality meetings. They just say the same sort of thing, nothing being everything, and da-da-da. But you don't really get bored of it. It's quite, every time it sort of hits you in a new way, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, you know, kind of resonates. So yeah, I don't think I'd ever get bored of it, which is nice. And obviously you haven't got bored of it yet.
No.
Not yet.
It seems not for now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's just a passion and a joy, and maybe
yeah, there is a certain joy to it. Yeah, for sure. I think because it's very natural. It's kind of, this is the kind of natural reality, just this. And I think deep down people kind of know this, because when you're a child, you know, when you're a very small child, you're just kind of in this sort of boundlessness, and there's not really that sort of identity or that heaviness of the story yet. There's just this kind of freedom. And I think people hear this message and they kind of remember what it's like to be that kind of childlike innocence and that kind of childlike wonder. I think people kind of yearn for that quite a lot. That's what they really want.
Yeah, deep inside, everyone knows, like,
yeah,
without even hearing one word, like nothing from non-duality, of course.
Yeah. Because when it's heard, it doesn't need to be like figured out by the mind. It's just, it's not the mind that hears it. It's something else kind of just resonates with it. Yeah.
I'm going to check YouTube. Hello, everyone here. Leona, hi. Congrats from Chris. Victoria, hey. Hi, Victoria. Yeah, they are just saying hello. Okay.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this, Luchana? What was your story?
Oh.
You don't want to talk about it.
No.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So not so interesting. It's at not so different from many other stories. It's equally empty.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle. It was
Eckhart Tolle. That seems to be most people's.
Yeah.
Because people start with Eckhart and then they progress.
When I read The Power of Now, I didn't know that there is something called like. I don't think so. He mentioned awakening in the book. I don't think so. But I didn't know that there is something like this before. And it seems that this triggers something.
It's amazing how it's overlooked, though. How we're sort of somehow wired to be more in the mind rather than in reality. It's very strange. Yeah. Most people spend a lot of their time kind of in their head and in their story, and they're sort of always overlooking just what's actually happening.
Exactly. Yeah. And
it'd be very strange. I don't know why humans evolved like that. I don't know. I think it may be a survival thing. Maybe it's a survival mechanism. People, because our ancestors needed to survive, so they needed to sort of predict what might happen and whether there were predators around and stuff. But it seems, we're very neurotic as a species. That's why I like having a dog, because when you have a dog, you just sort of see the dog, and there's no identity in the dog. There's no story in the dog. There's just the dog just doing its thing. It's quite a good teacher.
Yeah, totally agree.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah.
I've heard lots of people talk about awakening, and that prior to awakening, there's a terror. Did you experience that?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was definitely when I heard the sort of, well, when it was heard, there was certainly a real sense of fear and kind of just everything. It's sort of, I guess, because all of this is very unpredictable. It's quite chaotic. And I think when it was seen that there's no one here who's really in control of anything, I think that was the most scary part of the message, is that there's no free will. It's just everything is just happening and playing out as it plays out. There was definitely a fear that accompanied that, but I think there was still a sort of a me, or a sense of I, kind of trying to hold on to its story. And then when that kind of fully fell away, the fear kind of dissolved with it, because, you know, when there's no one left to kind of grasp at the story, and the story is kind of seen for what it is, to be sort of unreal, so to speak, it's just the fear kind of dissolves with that seeing.
Yeah, so nobody to be afraid.
Exactly, yeah. Well, at least not afraid of this,
yes.
of seeing what this is. I mean, fear can still come up, but it's but there's no one to be afraid of what's happening, so to speak. Yeah.
Is there a kind of sense of shock that goes with that? That's kind of momentary and passing, but it's like a real surprise to see that isn't there, that person actually is absolutely and totally disregarded by whatever is being shown. Yeah,
absolutely. It was very shocking. Yeah. But it was also even more surprising that this kind of sense of self had managed to maintain itself for so long.
Yes, yeah.
That's what seemed to be more surprising. It's sort of like, you know, it was very obvious that there's sort of no one here. And I'm not talking about no one here in the sense there's obviously a body and there's sort of a sense of location, so to speak, but there's not. But this idea of a separate entity called Matt, who kind of exists in time, is just amazing that kind of whole construct managed to maintain itself for so long. And it's just seen that there's just what's happening, and in what's happening there's no room for that character. It's just what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Another question? Although I think why is it, but I expect it's a common experience that this can be experienced, absolutely, but then the return of the I follows on. And I've been told by one non-duality teacher that's because there's a process of purification that needs to happen that hadn't happened prior to the realization. And so the I reinstates itself, whereas you appear to have just stayed. You are completely cooked, sort of thing.
Yeah. In one sense, yeah.
I wondered if you could speak a bit about that, or whether that's just so totally outside your knowing now that it's just an illusion and a dream, which it kind of is. It's known to be that, but at the same time, I can see that there's a different experience going on there than here.
Yeah, there was that dynamic though for quite a while of kind of, I think people call it meing and being, where there was sort of a sense of this, and then suddenly, you know, an hour later there'd be sort of this contracted energy would return, and the sort of idea of me, because I think it's me is kind of a habit, you know, sort of thinking itself into existence. It's kind of like an addiction or a habit. It's kind of, you know, our brains are kind of, you know, wired to think in a certain way, conditioned to think in a certain way. So for a lot of people, just simply seeing this is all there is, they might see that, but they will sort of be susceptible to having this sense of self come back for sure. But then there was just a point where it just didn't come back. And I think, yeah, I've heard there are some people who just, they see it and it's done. As you say, they're cooked. Whereas there are a lot of other people where there's this dynamic of, they see this, what it is, and then suddenly there's the sense of self comes back in and kind of reinstates itself. So it's very common. And I don't know much about, be interested to hear a bit more about, this person speaking about the purification. I think that's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Tom Das.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was going on about how I felt really, I really didn't understand what had happened. And the most thing I didn't understand was why would one come back and choose to be this contracted self when that was freedom? Yeah.
Well, no one's really choosing it. It's just what happens. It just comes back. Yeah.
Oh, say that again.
Well, I was just saying, no one actually chooses anything. No one chooses for it to come back. It will just come back or it won't.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, great. That's
it comes
really
back.
good.
But when I say there's nothing you can do about it, I'm just
yes. Yeah.
It's being a bit facetious. But
yeah. Thank you. That's brilliant.
No, thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Sometimes also doubts can arise. Is there how it was for you, Matt?
Doubts.
Yeah.
Or doubts about this or doubts about this? Yeah.
Doubts about, let's see, the thing that no one sees.
Yeah, there was some doubts at the beginning, because there was doubts about, whether I was getting it right or whether I was understanding it properly, or, but the need to understand, the need to kind of know what this is kind of just fell away. It's just seeing that there's no need to know anything really in that sense.
Yeah, there is no need to know anything, and there is this comfort in not knowing, which is like amaze me all the time. Like before, there was a feeling that it is stupid, like it is not right to be comfortable with not knowing.
Yeah.
Now
The mind doesn't like that.
Yeah.
It needs to solve everything. It needs to sort of, everything has to have its place and have it be put into its box and labeled. Yeah. When that sort of falls away, it's just, nothing really needs to be known.
Yeah.
But there can still be conceptual knowing. There can still be knowing, maths and, how to do your job and all of that sort of stuff. That's fine. It all stems from a place which is unknowable.
I share in the chat a beautiful song if you want to, everyone who is here in Zoom. And then Rosa is writing just pure and non-perfection already. Oh, Rosa, I love this. Yeah, this is your trademark, you know.
Yeah, my love, it is. It is recognizing, no, it is indeed that everything is already perfect. I mean, not perfectly good, well, whatsoever, but just perfect as it is already. That's it. Just this. I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, even if things don't feel perfect, to the me, things can still feel chaotic and, you know, out of place, but that's still perfection arising. But it's not the kind of perfection that the me would like it to be. The me would like it to be perfect in the sense of everything's going well for me in the story. You know, I've got the money, the job, the car, the beautiful partner, all of that stuff. That's kind of what the me would consider to be perfect. But that's, yeah, you're right. That's not the kind of perfection that we're pointing to.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, this message can be quite disappointing for the person, because I think the person is expecting some sort of big bang to happen, or some sort of realization that's going to sort of solve everything, and it sort of has this idea of, once I understand what's being shared here, then I'll be happy for the rest of my life and everything will go smoothly. But so it'd be quite disappointed if it knew what was being shared. This isn't kind of promising some kind of special experience. Sort of the end of that kind of need for this to be any different. That's really what the message is saying.
Victoria is writing in YouTube. Hi guys, I see you. We don't see you, Victoria, but hi. And Paul King writes, hello egos. Hi Paul. Yeah, what is ego, Matt, for you?
What is ego? I think I've always thought of ego as just, I used to read quite a lot of Buddhism. I used to quite like Buddhism. They're quite big on the ego, this idea. It's like I think it's just like, I'd say that's the mind-made sense of self, is the ego. It's kind of the self-image that people have that refers to what they believe is them. So there's still kind of an ego here. It's not completely egoless. I don't think this is talking about an egoless state necessarily. There's still kind of a sense of Matt there, and there's kind of a story there. That's fine. It's just not taken to be real. It's just not taken to be, that's who I am. That bit's collapsed, but there's still kind of a sense of Matt and Matt's interests and, you know, my job and my family and stuff like that. There's still that kind of story, but it's just kind of seen to have no reality. But it's a good reference point. It's quite practical. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do my job, for example. You know, you have to have some kind of mental faculty going on. But yeah, ego, I think, is just the sense of the mind-made sense of self. It's kind of the story, the self-image. But it's something that's always changing. You know, your ego is kind of always changing, because one day, you know, you could be very confident and you could be doing really well at work, and, you know, your kind of ego is very kind of inflated, and then yeah, the next day you might sort of be fired from your job, and then suddenly your self-image kind of gets really bad. So it's not, ego is not really a fixed thing. It's kind of always sort of changing and moving with your circumstances. But ultimately, the ego is obviously unreal. But I think that's what most people just, they only relate to themselves through their ego. They don't have any sense of there being another dimension to their being, you know.
So what you're describing as the ego is not that sense of contraction that left you.
No, I don't think so. I think that the separate self, so to speak, is kind of a mix of the ego plus the contraction in the body. It's kind of that. It's kind of that sort of, I am the body, I am the mind, exclusively. So, and then everything else is kind of out there and separate from me. So I have to kind of navigate this. So yeah, I wouldn't say the ego is also the contracted self. I'd sort of, when I talk about ego, I'd sort of more use it to refer to the mind-made sense of self. Yeah. Right. But that contracted energy is obviously a very fundamental part, because a lot of people, you know, they read Buddhism, they read The Power of Now, and they go, okay, yeah, I can see that there's no ego. I can see that I'm not my thoughts. But they still feel very, very separate, very much like a separate person. And that's because they still have this kind of contracted energy in the body. And until that sort of goes, there's still always going to be a sort of slight sense of self, sense of identity.
Yeah.
A question from YouTube. From Cynthia. What's non-dual? Oh no, what is real or unreal? This is from WebTube. What is real or unreal?
What is real and unreal?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. So a lot of non-duality teachers, they say this is real and unreal. So I think most people live in a world which is it's just real. There's no sense of it being unreal. It's just real. Everything is real. Everything has its own independent existence. Everything is solid, separate, and it exists in its own right. It exists independently of everything else. But when you see it's also unreal, you see that it's just an appearance out of nothing. It's just kind of energy or aliveness, whatever you want to call it, just being everything. So that's the kind of unreal bit. Sorry, you might hear my dog barking. Apologies, it's distracting.
Oh, it's
hopefully
nice.
Hopefully my mum will shut him up in a minute.
No, that's cool. That's the unknown perfection already.
Exactly.
What's the name of your dog?
Barking. My dog is called Dylan.
Dylan.
Yeah, my dad is a big fan of Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I thought so. Bob Dylan.
Yeah, so we called him Dylan. We didn't want to call him Bob because I think Bob's don't like Bob as much. But no, he's called Dylan. He's generally a good dog, but he does bark sometimes. So what can you do? It's perfection arising as a dog barking, apparently.
Just what's happening.
Just what's happening, yeah. Just what's apparently happening, yeah.
I'm going to check YouTube again. What is non-duality? I think in the beginning of our chat, we talk about this, but there is a second question from Cynthia, the real Cynthia. Cynthia, I'm not sure I pronounced your name correctly. Most men have too much, she said.
Most what, sorry? What was that?
Most men.
Most men have too much?
Have too much ego, yeah.
Oh, to have too much ego. Okay, yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think most people in general have too much ego. Maybe the ego expresses itself slightly differently between males and females. I'm not sure. I guess you could say men, their egos are maybe slightly more competitive. These are generalizations that I don't want to get into gender differences or gender debates, but you know, you could say that, yeah, the ego might express itself slightly differently between men and women, but I'd say most people have far too much ego, more ego than is necessary. And a lot of people, you could say, I mean, the Buddhists always say that, you know, ego is kind of the root of suffering, you know, desire and all these sort of egoic desires and egoic tendencies are kind of the root of suffering, which is a fair thing to say.
Is there an end to suffering? What is suffering?
Suffering. So for me, suffering is kind of, so you have pain, so you can have physical pain. So you could sort of fall over and hurt your leg or something, and there's physical pain. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily suffering. I'd say suffering is more pain plus a resistance to the pain. So it's like anxiety can appear, and there can be a sort of physical contraction in the body, or there can be sort of your heart starts beating a bit faster or whatever. But I wouldn't say that's suffering. I'd say the suffering comes in when there's sort of a person comes in and says, I shouldn't be feeling anxious. There's like a resistance to the anxiety. It's like, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I want to feel different. I want to feel, you know, happy. So it's suffering is kind of the desire for what's happening to be different. It's kind of that tension between what's happening and what the person wants to be happening. And so that's generally what suffering is. It's just resisting life as it's happening.
Beautiful. And demanding to happen on your way. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Should be on my way.
Exactly. That's a big cause of suffering, is people obviously wanting life to go a certain way, but life doesn't, as everyone knows, who's been alive for more than a few years will know that life doesn't go according to your map. That's all, you know. You could be very happily doing your work, and then suddenly you get struck by an illness, or a family member gets struck by, you know, and things just completely change. People often say, you know, my world got turned upside down, you know, when something happens. It's like you're saying life just kind of went a different way to the way I wanted it to go. So I guess this is kind of you could say it's the end of suffering, this message, in one sense. It's the end of that need for this to be any different. You could say that's the end of suffering. But the end of suffering doesn't mean automatically that you're just happy all the time. It doesn't mean that you're sort of walking around like euphoric. It's just the end of suffering. It's just the end of that kind of that need for this to be something else.
Is it something to do with identification with the pain as well?
Yeah, exactly.
That's who you are, who you think you are. Do that.
Yeah. So people have anxiety. So I used to have quite a lot of social anxiety, and I used to sort of really identify with that. So if I'd go into a social situation, I might feel like a little bit tense, a little bit kind of a bit awkward, and then there'd be an identity created around that, like I am a shy person, and then I'd keep kind of reinforcing that. And before I'd go into a situation, I'd be like, I'm a shy person, and that would kind of, that identification with it would really cause quite a lot of suffering. Whereas when that's kind of gone, there can still be social anxiety, there can still be anxiety, but it's not yours. Doesn't belong to anyone. It's just what's happening. So it doesn't have the same kind of heaviness.
Question from YouTube. I'm going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
What remains there to express an opinion after the apparent liberation? STR 82 stars. What remains? Would you like me to copy paste?
Yeah,
put it
sure.
in now in the chat. So I apologize for my voice. Sounds strange today, but I apparently catch some flu. Okay, it is in the chat. What remains there to express an opinion after the apparent liberation? Can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah. So what remains here that's sort of having an opinion about stuff?
Yeah.
Well, opinions can still happen. Opinions are kind of I think opinions are kind of a function of the mind. To have an opinion on stuff that can still happen. I still have opinions about politics and current affairs. That can still happen. There's no sort of strong identification with my opinions. It's not like my opinion is the right opinion or the wrong opinion, or and I've got to kind of impose it on other people. It's just, yeah, I can have opinions like everyone else, but there's no kind of identification with the opinions, I guess. So I think when you're a separate self, or when you feel separate, your opinions are very important. They're very important, and if someone disagrees with your opinion, you have to kind of go out and defend it against other people and assert your position and be right. But that kind of all sort of becomes a bit nonsense, really.
There's quite a lot of that in non-duality circles too.
What sort of opinions?
Well, having opinions about what things mean, and very derivative kind of arguments based on scriptures and teachings, and it's so confusing and mind-blowing that I just kind of can't deal with it, really. You can feel that energy of wanting to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even in non-duality circles.
Yeah.
It's quite ironic. But,
it is ironic, yes.
Yeah. But it certainly happens. I've seen it. I've been on the non-duality Reddit page before. Anyone who's spent a bit of time on that will see there's a lot of people with very strong opinions about what this is, and
Yeah.
And if someone disagrees, then it's there's a bit of tension there. Yeah. But that all just becomes sort of just becomes quite meaningless after a while. There's nothing wrong with having opinions and debates about stuff on a relative level. It's fine, to work stuff out and work disagreements out. And, I think in terms of politics, for example, I think there's good to have discourse from both sides, but it just becomes, just that need to be right, that need to kind of assert your opinion and to have the right opinion, that kind of just falls away, really.
Although it's sounding like, from what you're saying, that it's perfect anyway, because that's just what's arising.
Yeah, on an absolute level. I mean,
as is my reaction to it.
Yeah.
What's arising.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. It couldn't be any other way. It couldn't be different. But that doesn't mean that there won't be if bad, something bad happens, there won't be a kind of a reaction or an impulse to change things. I mean, I think as human beings, we seem to be generally more kind of wired to want to live in a compassionate society, and a society which is based on kind of love and kindness. So obviously anything that political ideology that comes up and is like fascism, there seems to be quite a strong reaction to that, and that's fine. So those things will kind of play out as they play out, those sort of those conflicts.
Another question I also copy-pasted here, but I will read it. How would you describe the nothing with capital and Yeah, big evoked by most non-dual speakers as the nature of everything.
The nothing. Well, I think the nothing is kind of pointing to the fact that it's not objectifiable because it is everything. So it's you can't get outside of it to know what it is. It's not a thing. It's not an object. It's not actually a thing that you can objectify. This sort of substance, the substance of everything, this kind of energy or aliveness, whatever you want to call it, it's not a thing. I think that's what people mean when they say nothing or no thing. No thing being everything. Even to say it's energy appearing as everything is, energy is sort of implies that it is something that you can objectify. So it's not even to say it's energy appearing as everything or aliveness appearing as everything is. It's a bit more digestible for the mind, but it's a bit easier for the mind to understand. But yeah, it's really nothing. Nothing being everything. Yeah. Very confusing though, when I first heard that, nothing being everything. It's not nothing and everything. There's just nothing being everything, which is a bit tricky for the mind to sort of grasp. Yeah.
Actually, there is no chance for the mind to get this. Nothing being
Nope.
everything. Empty
No.
fullness or whatsoever.
Empty fullness.
No way,
Yeah.
just pointings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. If someone wants to share something, feel free to share. I don't want to speak all the time. Or I need to invent a question.
It's just life verbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, I noticed on Instagram that you play guitar, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not as much anymore, but yeah. Nothing to do with non-duality. I just don't play as much. It made me lose all interest. No. Yeah, no, I play guitar. I still play quite a bit. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, come on, Matt. Still play a little bit for us.
Oh, I don't have my guitar here. I'm with my parents. I'm sorry. I would otherwise. Maybe next time I'll bring my guitar and have a sing along.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Why not?
Yeah.
Sure. I can write a song about nothing and just play it. Yeah, but it's interesting what you said about music. There seems to be less. I'm less drawn to music now. I don't know if that's anything to do with this message or anything, but I don't know, it seems to be less of an impulse to distract myself with things, kind of like watching the TV. And I used to be like, if ever I sat in a room and I was just kind of not doing anything, I'd have to immediately kind of pick up a book or play some music or do something to kind of cover over the silence, because otherwise I'd just be alone with my thoughts, and that would be too much. So but now there's not so much of that thing. It doesn't mean that you lose all motivation. Some people think that this message is quite sort of dull and a bit kind of, you see that there's nothing and nothing matters, and so you just kind of sit down and do nothing all day. But it's, you still have interests, and there's still an impulse to do fun things and creative things and talk to people. But, yeah.
I really can sense this this silence, this energy, which I feel you're quite very, very calm, very, I don't know, it feels like this because there are also other characters, they're just full on.
Yeah.
And it's just what's happening. So
yeah, exactly. I think it's just the conditioning of this character. Some characters are more kind of talkative and loud and kind of, this character's always been a bit quieter, I'd say. So that doesn't change, that doesn't have to change. But there's definitely more of a calmness, I'd say, in general.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it can have some effect on the personality. It depends on how kind of neurotic the person was. If the person is very neurotic and very kind of anxiety driven and very self-conscious, then if this is seen, if this message is heard, if that sort of collapses, then there can be a change. You might see there's a bit of a change in that person or that character. Maybe they're a bit calmer now, a bit more sort of peaceful. That can definitely happen.
And you are also aware of you notice those changes, apparent changes, right?
Yeah.
And are there people in your people who know you better, and they tell you, hey Matt, what's up with you? You really changed, or something like that?
A little bit. I say with my friends, because I used to be quite I don't know, a little bit more self-conscious, whereas now I don't really care. I'll just kind of say, just be a bit more I guess I might appear to be a bit more confident with my friends, because I don't really have that same, I'm not really caring what people think about me as much. So there's a bit more, I'll just kind of say whatever's on my mind, sort of thing. There's less of a filter. That doesn't mean I go around kind of offending people or anything, or being an arsehole to people. But, I guess there's a bit more, people have noticed there's a bit of a difference in me for sure. But not in a bad way. No one sort of said, what's up with you? You're really weird now, It's quite,
Yeah, I think the character is like this, so it's just
yeah,
thanks.
The character is kind of now more free to be itself, you could say. Because,
right. Yeah.
Because if you're very self-conscious, you're constantly trying to navigate, like, what's this person thinking about me? Having a conversation with someone, and you're like, I wonder what they're thinking about me. And that's very important. I've got to kind of manipulate things so they think good things about me. And that when that falls away, I think the character is more free to just express itself how it wants to express itself.
Yeah, there's simply no center more. And
exactly.
That's the game changer. There's nobody.
yeah.
So it's just a game. It's just a kind of ping pong.
Yeah, exactly.
But
there is a bit, sorry, go on.
No. I like this ping pong.
Ping pong, that's how it feels. It is just a ping pong. It's just, there's no one, it's just nothing speaking to nothing. It's just very kind of fluid. There's no one playing a game anymore.
Yeah.
Which is
it's beautiful.
It's very freeing. It's very freeing.
I'm sorry, Rose. There is a suggestion here from Non. Would not be cool to answer questions with songs instead?
Next time we'll do that musical Q&A.
That's a lovely suggestion for an interview. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
I'd be very up for that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, nice one. And there is also another question which I pasted from YouTube. How is the experience with senses? Is there any enhancement? I don't know this word. And
good question.
Do moments differ, or now everything is essentially the same?
Yeah, well, the senses part is very. When this kind of was first out, the senses. There are definitely things are more vibrant, more kind of alive. There's also a sense of, I think, when you're in this kind of subject-object reality where there's sort of a me in here and then the world is outside. It's sort of like, you're doing the seeing, you're doing the hearing. Whereas when that falls away, there's just seeing, there's just hearing, and the seeing is everywhere. The seeing is kind of, it's not taking place in here. It's everywhere. The seeing is happening all over the place. So the senses are a lot more, I'd say they are kind of enhanced a little bit, for sure. They're not being kind of filtered through anything. They're just kind of full on. The colors are very full on. The sounds are very full on. And everything's very alive, because when you kind of just, you take like an object like a pillow, and when you know what it is, you're like, that's a pillow. You kind of know what it is, and it's kind of made into this kind of dead, kind of solid thing. Whereas when you don't know what it is, it's very alive, it's very vibrant. Yeah. What was the second part of the question? I think there was 2 questions, wasn't there? Sorry, I can't.
Yeah. And do moments differ? Or now everything is essentially the same?
Well, apparently, yeah. In the appearance, there's sort of differences, different moments, yeah. What's appearing changes, apparently. Kind of sort of, yeah. But it's seen, I guess, I know what they mean, like it's seen that everything is sort of comes from, it's sort of made out of the same substance. It's kind of nothing being everything. But the nothing being everything can change. It can apparently change, yeah, for sure. But there's no more moment to moment anymore. There isn't really a moment to moment sort of sequential kind of way of living anymore. It's just everything is happening kind of now, so to speak. There isn't a sense of kind of moment to moment, really.
Yeah. What about the time? Let's talk about the time. We are just in the end of our meeting. Yeah. Yeah. What is your?
Well, time is like, I'd say time and the mind, or time and thinking, are kind of inseparable. They're kind of the same thing. So time is just kind of it's just a thought in the head, really. So the sense of time. So if you think about breakfast this morning, if you believe time is real, then you believe that breakfast this morning really happened, and it's in this other place called the past. But if you actually go to this, you see that breakfast this morning is just a thought that's appearing now. So there isn't really time. Time is kind of real and unreal, again, to use that phrase. But it's useful to have a sense of time as a sort of construct. It's useful to have a sense of time, to say like, oh, tomorrow I have to do this for work, so therefore today I will do some preparation. That's fine. But it's when it's taken to be real, time is quite, people feel like time is running out. I've got to do this by this time. I've got to, time becomes very important. So yeah, time is a useful tool. I'd say it's a useful construct, but it's not real. It's not really happening. this isn't going anywhere. This isn't moving to a future. And it didn't come from a past. It's always this. It's just a bit freaky.
May I add, inspired by Andreas Müller, the timeless wonder.
The timeless wonder, yeah. Oh, he's great. I like him.
Yeah, I love him. I really love him.
He's great.
I'm just sitting in front there and giggling all the time and asking him, like, why don't you smile again for me? I just love his smile, you know? It's just so brilliant.
He's very funny, yeah. A lot of non-duality teachers are quite, they've got a good sense of humor. I think Jim Newman and Tony Parsons, they're all quite funny. I think people are a bit worried about hearing this and then losing their personality or something, or losing their character, which doesn't happen at all. You become more your character, if anything. But yeah, I like that, the timeless wonder. This is really, it is timeless. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can end here.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Thanks for all your questions.
Thank you for accepting.
I'll bring a guitar next time.
Yay! Lovely.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Bye-bye.
thank you for everyone watching us on YouTube. We will be live again maybe Thursday. We'll see. Yeah.
With Lubo.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks everyone.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you
everyone.
too. Bye.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye, Leona. Bye.
Bye.
Everyone.